Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to get a hold of the violent crime data that we need. So there are a couple of different sources for this. One of the easiest to get a hold of is distributed by a group called the County Health Rankings. And if we just hit download, one of the things that we'll get is a link to this page. And this page has a number of different useful things. They've got County Health Rankings national data from all the way from 2010 to 2015. I'm going to download the 2013 data. This is fairly complete. No holes that I've seen yet. So I'm gonna grab this and download this to my download folder. You'll notice that it's coming in as an Excel spreadsheet. So here's our data right here. It's 10 megabytes. If we load this up, we get a page that looks something like this. So we've got an introduction. We've got outcomes and factors. These are sort of the overall ranks and ratings for the analysis. But what we want to look at is the ranked measure data. So what this has is information that was collected and sourced. We've got premature death, poor or fair health. And if we scroll to the right, we get some information about violent crime. So this is the violent crime rate. We've got annual violent crimes. We've got a violent crime rate where it's normalized per person. In this case, it's probably per 1,000 people. And then we have a z-score, which gives you the relative ranking. So z-scores are used for normal data. So they look something like this. What it says is that data is often distributed in this sort of bell curve-like pattern, and what we might want to do is measure how far away we are from that mean in sort of a normalized way. So the z-score is a normalized score that tells us how many standard deviations we are away from the mean value. So it's just a way of sort of comparing. It allows us to compare very different kinds of metrics like unemployment and violent crime, things that don't have numbers that go very well together. So if we take a look at these county health rankings, you'll notice that the first year, or the first column rather, has a lot of metadata in it. These values here don't have, they have names that might be very difficult to read in. So what I want to do is I'm going to copy some of the things that I'm interested in here. So I'm going to hit Control-C, I'm going to create a new workbook, and I'm going to paste those in here. You'll notice that we get a FIPS code. We're also including information by state, but we do have the county information here as well. So I'm going to grab the violent crime rate, and there may be other factors that you're interested in. You can actually paste the whole data set over if you want. I'm going to grab one other item here, and that's unemployment. Now again, you could grab as many of these columns as you want. So I'm going to paste that in here. And what I want to do before I try to import this into ARC is to get these names in a format that's likely to be a little easier for ARC to handle. So I'm going to rename this violent. Oops. Control-Z. So this is annual violent crimes. So we're just going to rename that violent crime count. We're going to rename this violent crime rate. And we should look this up to be sure, but likely this is the z-score based on the violent crime rate. So we'll put violent crime rate underscore z. And again, I'm avoiding having spaces. This is a particularly good idea for any attribute information. If you're working with file names, generally there isn't much that's going to have a hard time with that these days. But attribute information pulled out of a table can still be problematic. So it's just good practice to avoid having spaces in your attribute names. So this is going to be num unemployed. We'll call this labor force. We'll call this unemployed PRC for percent. I'm actually going to rename this unemployed count. And this will be unemployed percent Z. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is save our file. So I'm going to save this as County Health Rankings 2003 extract. I'm going to save it as an Excel 97 2003 workbook. ARC sometimes has a problem handling the newest format, which would be the .xlsx format. So we're going to use this one. We're going to save that here. In this case, I'm going to overwrite one that I had previously created. Hit OK. And we can bring this in. So we're going to add from County Health Rankings 2003. This is what we just created. We're going to add in sheet 1, and we can take a look at the data that we just brought in. And here's all of our data. Now we've had kind of a strange thing happen. Violent crime count has shown up on the right-hand side of our screen. That's a little unusual. I don't know why that happened. So we're going to ignore that for now. And let's see if we can export this to our geodatabase. So we're going to export. We're going to select our violent crime geodatabase. We're going to make sure that we name this something that we understand. So we'll call it County Health Rankings 2013 extract, and hit save. I think I actually had a previous version of this in a previous recording, so we'll hit save here. We've got an error that's going on. I think probably because we didn't select all the way into our database, so we'll hit save again. There we go. We do, however, get another error, so that's an export table. And what we need to do is look carefully about what this message says. So it says there's an error exporting the table. An invalid SQL statement was used, sheet 1. And then there's a syntax error in query expression violent crime count. But if you look carefully, there's actually an extra space between violent and the underscore separating violent and crime. So if we look back at our original Excel file, and we go into this particular field, we can see that extra space actually showing up right here. So this is the kind of thing that's easy to go wrong. Fortunately, it's an easy fix. We can just delete that extra space. So now it's a single string. Make sure that we delete that as well. Okay, I'm not sure why this single quotation mark is shown up here, but we'll again ignore that for now. We'll hit save to try to save everything back to disk. I'm going to remove my data and then add it back in. We'll take a look at the data table. And you can see that now that strange error that we had where violent crime count was showing up on the right-hand side, that's now showing up here on the left. So that has explained both issues. We'll try to export this back out again to our geodatabase. So we're this time going straight into our geodatabase. Again, County Health Rankings 2013 extract. This one looks like it's working. We'll add that table to the current map. And now we have information about the county health rankings. So each of these has separate interesting information about our data. What we're going to need to do next is we're going to need to create we're going to need to create sort of a joined layer where we're putting all of those together. So we're going to do a join and relate. So we're going to take our CB 2014, these are our cartographic files, cartographic boundary files, and we're going to use GeoID, and we're going to try to join that to this data based on the same field. Now, we want to be careful to make sure that, you'll notice that we're using GeoID here and GeoID 10. I'm going to cancel out of this. It's always good before you do a join to visually inspect to make sure that what you think you're joining is what you're actually joining. In this case, we take one more look at GeoID from our cartographic boundary file. And this is the first, this is a 5-digit code, the first 2 being the state, the last 3 being the county. That looks good. If we take a look at the Tiger line files, GeoID 10 has that same information. So we're okay to use these 2 different fields. They seem to represent the same information. So we're going to go back and do our join. So GeoID from our initial field, we're selecting the county file, and then we're going to be using GeoID 10 to do the records. We'll keep all records. They all ought to be the same. But if we had any that didn't match up, then we would be creating some null entries into the attribute table on those. Okay, joins usually happen pretty quickly. So we can take a look at that attribute file. And sure enough, we've got extra information that's now added in a lot of cases, duplicate information. So we've got county FIPS code, state FIPS code here, GeoID. Everything after GeoID 10 is sort of the new extra information. So here's our duplicate information, Bonner County instead of Bonner. We've got another figure for area of land. But importantly, sorry, sliding this all around here. Maximize that. Importantly, what we have are all of our census data in the fields. Our total population for that county is going to be right here, DP001, 0001. And then all of the rest we can look up in our table. So looks like that join went perfectly fine. We're going to repeat that process and do a second join. Oops. And do a second join. We're again going to be using GeoID to do the join. This time we're going to join it to data that we're getting out of the county health rankings. And we're going to be using the FIPS code here. So again, before we do the join, we just want to visually make sure that what we're using is what we think we're using. We take a look at that FIPS code, and that looks good to us. So we're going to repeat the join and relate. We're going to join based on GeoID. We're going to be pulling from the county health rankings. We're going to join based on FIPS, and we hit OK. Again, joins happen pretty fast, so you won't always get a little dialog box down here. We can open the attribute table, and what we want to make sure of is that our extra information about the violent crime rate and unemployment has come in, and it looks like all of that has come in. One of the extra bonuses that we get out of this is that we're getting some extra information about states as well. So our previous data sets didn't have state labeled in there. It's a little bit redundant, but it's nice to have that extra information. So now that we've joined that data, what we might want to do is we might want to export this. So we're going to export our joined data. In this case, we're going to keep working within our violent crime geodatabase, and we'll just put joined. We'll put census, county health rankings join, and we'll hit save. We'll be exporting all of those features, and we can add this back in. Again, visually looks the same, but the difference here is that now we have a single file. We can remove all of these. We have a single data set that has all of the information that we want. So we have the nice cartographic boundary files, we have all of the census data, and we have all of the violent crime data that we just picked out from the previous example.